Hey audience, welcome to episode 11 of the Morris InterVarsity Podcast. InterVarsity is an international college campus Christian ministry, and our goal is to spread the good news of Jesus Christ. We hope you enjoy the episode, and let's get started.
Will, so why don't you just become Christian? Like, just play it safe. Why not just
This is Joseph's favorite question to ask.
why not just play it safe? It can't hurt, right?
Don't want to sing a trend.
It can't hurt.
That's a good question.
Just take the lead.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of in Muthu's boat here. I during this conversation, I'm kind of realizing that I'm a little bit of a Hindu with maybe a more individualistic Western, Eastern
You're not evangelical.
Muthu won.
What do you?
Oh man, I've exposed myself.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah. But, you know, that is to say that I see the fact of the beauty and truth and goodness in many different worldviews. I see that as being, or I'm more sure of that fact than I am of the fact of the historical, spiritual authenticity of the Bible. And yeah, you're right. Like from a gambler's perspective, yeah, I should just become a Christian. I think that's like Pascal's wager. I don't know if I'm butchering that.
Yes.
But it's like, yeah, Christianity is like the most specific like way to get to heaven and to not get to hell, and the rest like include that within it. So it's like just choose. But like, I don't know. That doesn't work for me. And I think that these questions are so much deeper than like cost benefit analysis and like making the best gambling choice. I think they speak to like all aspects of your being, and you should come at them with a little more like respect towards those different aspects of your being.
And Joseph, let me ask you, like, would you consider as a real Christian anyone who converted based on that argument, right? Like if anyone who saw, well, might as well be a Christian, you know, it makes the most strategic sense for me being a human trying to avoid hell and get to heaven, so I'll be a Christian. Like, would you really see that person as a real, true Christian?
If they're seeing it like, I don't know, if it's like, maybe if it's like in a surrendering type of way, like, like God, I surrender, like this is it, like this is all I have, you know, or that type of thing. But so I mean, I would say like, yeah, I don't know, like I'd say it's easier to get to heaven than we think. So I don't think it's like too complicated. Belief is simple, you know, and I just think it has to be like a genuine, like, you know, like, I mean, like, it's not bad to want to go to heaven. Like it actually talks about in the Bible, like God like wants us to strive for that. Like we should want to go to heaven. Like that's a good thing. So to like want that and like not want to go to hell. And, you know, I think if you're truly like, what else do I have? You know, if you truly come at it from that type of perspective, and and then you just say, you know what, God, like, you know, I believe, you know, Jesus truly is the way, and you just go with it. You know, I think you're good. Like, I think that's it. So
I really like that answer. And I think if I ever do become a Christian, it's going to be something like that, where it's like, it's some really simple, almost like childlike little conundrum that I have. And I'm just like, you know what, God, life is so hard. I give up, or I give up, and I give up to you. Yeah. And that's how I think that might be how it goes down, if it ever does.
I mean, like Jesus talks about, like, you know, let the little children come to me, right? Like have like it's simple, like children can believe it. So he talks about that. So it's, I think it's more simple than we make it out to be, or, you know, what like the world thinks it to be. It's really simple. So don't make it too complicated.
Yeah. So, that we have a tendency to do that in philosophy.
That's a great lesson to take away from this too. You know, don't make it too complicated.
So, but is that anything else? Anybody wants to say or ask me, or?
I guess like one more thing for you,
Sure.
like Will, is that like using sort of like a framework of just like equating like sort of human relationships with like also relationships with God, like just like that's how, if you relate to God in that way, like a personal relationship sort of way,
Okay. Yeah,
which is like what people like say you should do with Jesus.
yeah. Jesus is my boyfriend or whatever. No, sorry.
Okay, that's different. I don't know what I was saying. I like, forgot everything now.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's like, yeah, there might be like bad reasons to enter into a relationship, but like the bad reason doesn't
Right.
like exclude that relationship from becoming something that's
Mhm.
amazing and flourishes.
Yeah, a tree coming from a mustard seed is humble origins, but the humble origins don't make the thing that it becomes invalid. It's like there's inherent beauty, complexity, and worthwhileness there in that thing that develops. And I agree with that. But still, from my perspective currently, it feels wrong to come at it from a strategic, what can I get out of this cosmic relationship sort of standpoint. And I can't help but feel like ickiness over that.
I don't think you should
Ask
feel
God to
wrong
help
about
you.
that.
What's that?
I don't think you should feel wrong about like wanting benefits from like a relationship with God, or like what can God do for me? Like I don't think it's like wrong, as long as, you know, like after you
Mhm.
try to commit to God, then okay, like what can I do for God, you know?
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and the other half of my issue is that I really do see a greater truth and a more like open and inclusive worldview. I see a lot of beauty and a lot of truth in a lot of different places and a lot of different worldviews, and I think that is providing like real like existential value to me.
Yeah.
And I'm getting good things in my life because of that. And I feel like if I were to just give that up for this like strategic line of argument, you know, my chances of making it to heaven, I guess, would be like technically increased, but my chances of really experiencing the fullness of life as I see it right now would be a lot like drastically minimized.
Brief interjection here. Pascal's wager was developed a long, long time ago. And when it was developed, this guy, Blaise Pascal, a mathematician and philosopher, knew of Christianity and then pagan faiths. So if you believed in Christianity, you know, you would either go to heaven or nothing would happen.
Yeah.
But if you believed in a pagan faith, either nothing would happen or you would go to hell, right? So it makes more sense to believe in Christianity. But for today's world, with all the faiths that we know about, there are some people who've worked on expanding Pascal's wager.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, it'll cause you a lot of existential angst, I'll tell you that. But yeah, like Christianity doesn't become as clear of a choice because there are so many faiths that say, if you don't believe in us, you're going to go to hell. But it's an interesting argument to think about.
Would you, okay, say there's like a cup of water and like 1% of it's poison. Like would you drink it?
No?
Having a hard time. I'm glad I didn't get asked this question.
No? I don't know. Yeah.
Could you
say
give
no.
more context, or is that the context?
So I'll play into it. I'll say no.
Okay, yeah.
I won't drink it. Yeah.
So like say the water is like some religion,
Yeah.
right? Like 99% of it's true, and then that 1%, you know, that's like the false part, you know? So, but like that false part will, like, you're done for, you know, no matter how big it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess that sort of, or it assumes a certain view of like what incorrectness in a worldview does to us. Like I would say that if you have 1% incorrectness in your worldview, your life is reduced something like 1% in that like order of magnitude. But you're saying it's like everything is ruined because of that. And I would guess I would disagree with that. So I would say I would drink the water Yeah.
Well, okay, let's expand it. Like, say, I don't know, like say you have to like drink, I don't know, like there's multiple cups of water, you have to like drink one of them, you know, you're gonna drink the one that's,
And you can only drink one.
yeah, you can only drink one.
Okay.
So
Because what I would have responded to your original point is that, let's say none of them are pure water, and some of them all have loaded poison.
yeah.
From the Hindu perspective, I would say you drink a little bit from each, and in theory, this would, if you look at your stomach after that,
Yeah.
your overall poison content would be lower than any single cup. Or maybe it wouldn't be there at all. Well, that doesn't work scientifically, but it would be lower than any single cup.
Yeah. I don't know. So you're saying like, since you think there's like a lot of truth all around, you just like can't commit to Christianity, kind of like what you said.
Yeah, big commitment issues at every level.
So like you grew up Christian, right?
Mhm.
So like why'd you, I mean, only if you want to talk about it, like kind of like why'd you follow it?
Yeah, the original reason, it's weird. It's kind of an inverse of what we were talking about before, where you become a Christian for a dumb reason, but then the Christianity itself is beautiful. I think I became a non-Christian for a dumb reason, but my non-faith is somewhat beautiful to me now. The reason I became a non-Christian was a couple questions that are pretty standard in like theological discussions, like how do you reconcile God's sovereignty with human responsibility, sort of like a predestination question. Like if God controls everything, if he created everything, then how do we have any responsibility for, you know, choosing God or not God or hell or whatever. And that really threw me for a loop, and I didn't get the perfect answer that I wanted for that. You know, the authorities who were Christians in my life were like, yeah, it's a paradox. And I was like, I don't like that. Stuff like that. And then I mentioned the historical search earlier, and that didn't really yield any conclusive results, and just kind of made me frustrated with the whole, you know, science proves religion route. And so, yeah, then I just sort of settled into like, okay, I'm an agnostic now.
Yeah.
And yeah, since then I've been trying to just be very open to my actual experience of the world, not trying to like put certain frameworks on it arbitrarily, but just really see it for what it is and try to figure out how to live a good life. And and what I was saying before is that I feel like I'm a Hindu who's just much more individualistic. I recognize that this is all a very like me, it's coming from me process, which I don't see as ideal, but I also don't know how to remedy that because I don't live in like an intergenerational house with a whole culture, like, you know, Hindu culture supporting me or whatever. So,
And maybe to add
barring
that
you
point,
adopting me, I don't see how this is going to get fixed.
well, that's the thing. Like that's part of my personal struggle too, is that like I don't live in that household either.
Right. Yeah.
You know, my ideal life, I would have grown up with both sets of grandparents in the same household, and my parents and my cousins and everyone to learn from, and so on and so forth. But just, you know, with society and our nuclear families and moving across the world and all those things that happened, like that's not the shape my life has taken. So I think that's complicated my faith journey in ways and forced me to take more initiative.
Right.
So what would it take
To become a Christian?
Yeah.
You'd have to write them a check for $1,000.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Would you do
That's it.
InterVarsity's got deep pockets for evangelism.
we can do that.
Hey, that might be worth looking into. Like is the most efficient conversion
extort
process
people.
just like straight up giving people money?
That kind of happens today.
A mustard seed,
If you
man.
actually care about their souls, though, you should like give them the most accurate faith possible, and not just have them like profess this stuff like I'll give you money. I guess this is already ridiculous, so I don't know how I'm replying.
Well, like this is okay. So God is like writing you 1,000, or writing you an eternity check, and like what we were talking about before, like you go into faith because it gives you good things, and it's a very simple childlike reason, and it's like this is the same thing. I don't know. Okay, this is a dumb route to take this. I don't want to talk about.
I mean, Joseph, if you want to write this guy a check.
Is that what it would take?
I mean,
And
yeah,
then
no,
you're
I
gonna-
guess
and then
if
you're gonna,
like
try to,
eternity,
Would 1,000, like, if I gave you $1,000, would you like start reading your Bible, come to IB, come to church, and then like try to actually be like sincere and like just tell God like, hey, I surrender, you know, like this is all I got.
no, I appreciate the like sincerity, but I don't think I could muster the
2,000?
That's so funny.
You're being serious about this, so tell me more. Like, I mean, what that idea is? I mean, like, it's a little laughable, right? So, like, I mean, what have you heard something like this being done before? Or?
I think it's beautiful, to be honest. I like it.
I mean, it's laughable, but it's like some people you can only reach them in a certain way.
Yeah, what do you need to get the ball rolling?
So,
Is it
yeah,
$1,000
like,
bucks? Is
like-
it $2,000 bucks? Once the ball's rolling, it's in God's hands, but you just need to.
Like what will be that kind of like rock in your shoe that'll get you like, you know, like, okay, maybe, you know, right? So, I mean, like certain people just have, you got to push them in a certain way, and then the kind of trajectory, you know, towards God will, you know, happen. So, so you'd say like, you believe in like a God or like a higher power?
No, I'd say I'm agnostic on that point.
Okay.
I think there's something that caused everything.
Okay.
Or maybe a number of things that caused everything.
Okay.
And I wouldn't try to attribute any sort of like personality to that thing, because I
Okay.
think it's completely beyond me to understand. But your question before, which I didn't really answer, was like, what would it take
Yeah.
to get me to be a Christian? And I guess like just some experience that I can't deny.
Some like supernatural stuff.
Sure. Or just even less like, you know, wow and magical, but just like God, like literally just changing the synapses in my brain or whatever to get me to be like, you know, less hostile to some argument, or, you know, something where it's just like, I can't not believe this anymore. I don't know. That would be great.
What about like the only sign that will be given to you is like the Son of David and stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it talks about in the Bible, you know, like, don't test the Lord your God, you know, like, right, like, don't try God, you know, like, I'd say it's not wrong to ask for a sign, but like, I don't know, if you're trying to like test God, you know, I don't know, there's like kind of like a line, I don't know, so. I mean, I'd have to look into it more, you know, the Bible's a big book. So.
No, yeah, if God has said to us that these are what I'm going to give you, and you need to convert based on this, and then I'm like, well, I want more than that, then obviously I'm not going to make it to faith, because that's ridiculous. So, but I mean, people do have experiences. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you have testimonials on the podcast where people talk about going from non-Christian to Christian, and it's related to really profound experiences they have in their life. And I just don't feel like I've had any of those experiences that would like make me reject all of this truth and beauty that I see in other religions and say, this is what I'm throwing all of my chips into.
I mean, I don't know. I would just say maybe, do you ever like pray or?
Yeah. Ish, kind of vague little transmissions to heaven. I don't know.
I would just say, you know, like keep praying, keep asking. Like ask for like open mind, soft heart, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
The other thing, Will, is that like how Jesus says to St. James the Lesser, like he won't heal his like bad leg or whatever, because like how much more vibrant is this person's testimony. He still believes, and I didn't even heal his leg. So like, I mean, not to like try to evangelize you or anything, but like maybe God has like a reason for doing that. You know what I mean? Maybe
a reason for not giving me a reason.
Yeah, like a reason for like not showing you a sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I guess at a certain point I have to like interpret that as sort of a reason in itself.
Sign, yeah.
And I don't know when that point is. It just, it gets very weird. And I assume a lot of what my parents and pastors back home have told me is that this is a story that happens over a lifetime, and that you can't just be like, I want to change now, or like, God, give me the thing now. It's like, it'll happen in his plan if it's in his plan to happen. Like, I don't know. I'm not stressing about it. I guess maybe I should, because buses and roads and crosswalks exist, but like,
Hey, be safe, man.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
You too. Look both ways.
I don't need to.
Joseph's
no,
gonna put a call in
Yes.
tonight. Look, God, I tried with those guys, but it wasn't taking. All right, it's time.
So what do you think about like the disciples? Like right? So like Peter was crucified upside down. Paul was definitely killed in some way. Like, I mean, those are like probably the two most popular apostle disciple like deaths, right? Like, what do you like? Do you think they like?
Matthew was
Like-
stabbed to death.
Yeah, like, do you think they like? Do you think the disciples, like the apostles, do you think they like hallucinated, or like kind of like, what's your argument for them like evangelizing after the crucifixion of Jesus? Like, what's your argument against that? Because I feel like the only real argument against that is like they all hallucinated, which is kind of weak to me.
There's also like the hoax argument.
Yeah,
I think
the
that's pretty
hoax.
weak,
Yeah.
weak too. But
like
They all hallucinated what?
The resurrection.
so Jesus resurrected, and then, or they believe he did, right?
Mhm.
And then they basically hallucinated, and then they they evangelized because they thought Jesus rose again, but he didn't. Or it was a prank.
yeah,
Like, oh, we're doing this for fun. We're gonna go die for fun.
right.
Like,
That's the
like, so
good argument
I guess like
against it.
what are your arguments against it? Or like what do you think? Like, I don't know.
I guess I don't have a likely alternative that I don't cite some reason like they all hallucinated for sure, or this story was misinterpreted or made up for sure. But I
Yeah.
would cite the complexity of reality and the complexity of the transmission of history as just like an inherent reason why we can't be sure about this.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many things that might have happened, so many little, I mean, we live in Morris, people have nothing better to do than to tell stories, and you know how quickly they get twisted and blown up, and then move from this person to that person because John sounds like Juan. Like, I don't know, like there are so many things that might have happened that make it, that Jesus wasn't real, or Jesus isn't who he says he was, and that these guys were mistaken, or that their story was mistranslated or miswritten or mistold, or I don't know. It's complex.
So you don't have an answer, pretty much. Or you think
that
it
was my answer?
I mean, that was kind of broad.
A little bit of a non-answer, sure, but like, I don't know.
I mean, it's okay to not have an answer. Like,
I don't have
it's
an
okay to-
alternative. I do have an answer. I don't have an alternative.
Okay.
Yeah. I would go a different direction. The argument I'm maintaining right now is that, and I, of course, I haven't thought through this besides this podcast right now, right? So,
This is like the first time somebody asks you this?
I mean, yeah. To offer a very direct refutation of the principles of Christianity from a Hindu perspective, yeah, this is the first time I've truly tried to come up with something there. But I would say that the current view I'm working on is that Jesus was not a liar, was not a con man.
Okay.
The disciples and the apostles did not hallucinate. Let's say they did see Jesus resurrect. He did resurrect. He did come back to life.
Okay.
But that when Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, the light, that wasn't that he wasn't the one truth, and that God knew that because God is not just, one, and that God had a reason for having Jesus say that, and act that way. So right now I'm not refuting the fact that Jesus lived, that he was crucified, that he came back to life, all that stuff. But yeah, my argument is more focused on God and the fact that we don't know his motivations rather than on human beings.
So a view of the Christianity being true and compatible with a more pluralist perspective.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to maintain. But again, that's tough, right? Yeah. But
Would it be against your beliefs to say Jesus Christ is your savior?
It's an interesting question. I don't know if it would be against my beliefs, but I don't think it would be my belief. I don't think it would be in line with my beliefs.
Okay.
Yeah, because I suppose I don't think that every human being needs to be saved by belief. I think some do, and I think that's a very sound way to salvation and enlightenment. But I don't think all human beings do. I think that my faith and its tradition maintain that through methods like meditation and self-control and all these variety of things, you can master your material nature and rise above it and get to enlightenment.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say you can. I mean, you can be Christian and do things to like help yourself too.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd say it's kind of there's some parallels, I guess. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah,
I think it's a good
yeah.
question to ask.
No, I think it is actually. I think it's a very Christian question that's not often asked in interfaith discussion. I think that's interesting.
So Roy, have you like evangelized to your family or like what?
Like I said,
what has that been like?
Sort of like method of evangelization that is that the word? Is
Evangelism, maybe? The method of evangelism.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
I think evangelization might be a word. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, no, it doesn't
I think
matter.
it's evangelism.
Okay, I'll say that
wrong.
from now on. No, like I said, I think that it's my job to, like, as best I can, be unapologetically Christian and bear witness to people around me and provide like positions that are Christian.
Yeah.
But I think like most of like my own conversion process, I believe happened through like the Spirit. That like it was just like mostly God's doing, and I think that's what I believe will or won't happen with other people in my life. That, you know, the Spirit will either call them, and then I don't want to push my will on them. I want them to still have free will, and I want them to have the free will choice to like become authentically Christian or choose something else.
I will say, as evidence to Roy's method, I mean, and I haven't told you this, I don't think, but you have been like one of the most influential Christian influences in my life, in a positive way.
Thank you.
And yeah, like and it's not by you like, hey, Will, like, how do you feel about Christianity today? Are you going to believe, but more just being you and presenting the things that you believe in unapologetically. Like just what you're saying. It's working.
It's working.
Yes.
And I would briefly interject that I wholly agree with Will that if we're thinking about evangelism and maybe talking to a Christian, you know, like what's the best way to evangelize, right? Yeah. The people I've known in my life and the kinds of lives they've lived, right? Like I mentioned my friend earlier who is a very serious Christian and she loves God, and you can see it in everything she does. And that kind of a person, that kind of a life is really what'll get someone to consider your way of life more than anything. Sure. I mean, like knowing her is what got me to read Mere Christianity.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
I mean,
things
that's
like
simple, right? Like her just, you know, striving for God. That's that evangelized you in a way, right? You read Mere Christianity, so yeah, you don't have to like, you know, be a Bible thumper. You know, that's not how you're supposed to do it anyways. But you know, trying to like through your actions, you know, you can make a good impression on others. And I mean, I think, you know, it's definitely okay to be like, hey, like, what do you think about Jesus? What do you think about this? But, you know, like, if they're like, you know, rejecting it, you know, or I don't know, you're doing too much, right? Like, that's not the way to go. So,
yeah,
there's definitely a right way to go about it and a wrong way. So,
dust the sand from your feet or something like that. Like, shake out your sandals after leaving that house.
Can you say more about that?
I'm not
I need some
getting the
context. I
in the-
kind of know what
It's
you're
in
saying.
the Gospels, what Jesus tells to the apostles. When he's
Oh,
sending them
like
out.
if they reject you, just shake the
Oh.
dust off.
Yeah.
And, like go on your way. Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of knew what you were saying, but
That's kind of a
I needed some more context.
bar from Jesus, kind of a roast.
It is.
Like,
yeah.
You're not even worth their dust.
But, well, is that everything? Any other questions or answers or?
I suppose I would just reiterate that, I mean, every time I talk to people from other faiths, I come away more firm in my convictions that we can't know, like we can't fully comprehend truth, and that like a lot more religions and a lot more people have truth in their lives and beauty and goodness than we tend to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just gives me a lot of hope for the world. So that's what I'd say coming away from this conversation.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I disagree. I'd say there's a lot of truth, all around, and then what was your other one? I don't know. I'm blanking. What was the first one?
I'm blanking.
that we can't like
Yeah.
fully know truth.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Which I
Can't
definitely
fully-
I mean,
agree with.
that's why it's
Exactly.
called faith,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd say I agree. So
If God like gave everyone absolute proof of his existence all the time, then it's just like would be the way things are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then there'd be like no point to existing. I don't know.
Which is why I think that oftentimes these conversations we can get caught up in little, and maybe not. I think we did a good job of not doing this, but oftentimes conversations between people of different faiths, especially philosophers, can get caught up in little distinctions and
yeah,
blow them up and have arguments, and it's like that doesn't feel like the way to do this. Yeah.
but how much of the Bible have you read?
Over my lifetime, the whole thing ish.
Oh, okay.
Maybe bits and pieces have been left out. The
That's impressive.
mid Old Testament, it kind of gets
Yeah.
lost in the sauce, but
The
Yeah.
Middle Testament, did you say?
No, middle of Old
Oh,
Testament.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty impressive. So.
no, the Old Testament is anything but mid. It is pretty awesome.
Okay. That's not what I heard you say.
Oh,
Yeah.
I misinterpreted what you misinterpreted. Never mind.
Yeah, let's just like
But, no, I mean that's pretty impressive. I was just curious. So, I guess like if we don't have anything else to talk about, I guess like my last message would be, Muthu, you read the Gospels. I'd say like I want you to do that. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then you just, just pray. Or, I mean, only if you want to. Just suggestion, but I say that's kind of from a Christian, right? I say that's my suggestion to the both of you, and you just keep doing your thing, I guess. So yeah,
I will, thank you.
My suggestion to you is to meditate and listen to Pink Floyd. Okay.
Okay.
No, but really, thank you so much for
Yeah,
having us
thanks.
on,
of
Joseph. Like,
course.
Thank you.
this conversation could have been like awkward and not really flowy, but it was the opposite of that. So yeah, I had so much fun. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well,